Well, welcome everybody who's able to attend tonight to this version of the Mid-Michigan ColdFusion Users Group. Tonight we'll be having Mark Takata give us some insights and updates on ColdFusion 2025. From my personal standpoint, I want to hear about this licensing and how they're going to do this in this new version. Does that work for you, Nick? Did I do like Rick? I know I was off the cuff.
Yeah, that's
Hopefully
good.
that's okay. All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Cool. Okay, well, let me start. And just to remind you guys, I don't really, I'm a technical evangelist. I don't really talk about licensing stuff. I can give you some surface level stuff. I can let you know that it's subscription. The pricing has been put out. It's public. It's like 700-ish a year for standard. I want to say it's like 2,900, something like that for enterprise per year. Something along those lines, but I'm not sure that I have any other info than that to give out during this. This is a technical talk all about the new stuff that's being added to CF. So I'm just going to go ahead and start going down that road. We're just going to talk about who I am real quick. Most people kind of know who I am. We're going to go into additions to CF25, including some code samples and examples. And then I don't think I'll have time for Q&A because this started kind of late. And unfortunately, I have another thing I have to physically go to, and my co-host for that had an emergency dentist thing that he had to go to. So anyway, hi, I'm Mark Takata. I am the Adobe ColdFusion Technical Evangelist. I've been around since 2021. I'm a dev with nearly 30 years of experience. ColdFusion was my first programming language ever. I'm an AI educator, keynote speaker, and love pancakes. At some point, I'm going to have to share some pancake recipes out there with folks, but not tonight, because tonight we're going to talk about ColdFusion. I'm pretty sure all of you know what ColdFusion is, but just in case someone wanders in here after the recording is up, what is ColdFusion? It's an abstraction on top of Oracle Java. It's an ecosystem. It's not a language. Try to be fairly clear about that more these days, that it's not just CFML that's ColdFusion. It's an entire way of making applications using CFML, as I mentioned, but also CF script, Java, and maybe other stuff in the near future, possibly other languages to work inside of the ecosystem so you can work with more teams. We're doing some internal talking about doing that. It's a rapid application development framework. What does that mean? Rapid application development means as tight a cycle as you can. It's an agile methodology, meaning you can get more review cycles to your stakeholders more often. That usually, if done right by the right kind of team, means higher code quality at the end of the day. There's a few of these around. ColdFusion is probably one of the oldest. It's real good at that, and it's one of the reasons I love it. We also have a variety of tooling, such as API Manager, which, by the way, API Manager is available right now for use for free. Yay! You don't have to be using Enterprise. You can go and download API Manager right now, this minute, from adobe.com and use it to your heart's content and delight. You should, because it's an awesome, awesome tooling. We also obviously have internal like PDF generation. We have spreadsheets, which I'm going to be talking about, charting. I'm also going to be talking about and image manipulation, plus much more. And of course, flexible data access. CF can access and get a hold of data from pretty much anything, from AS400s to GraphQL to API endpoints, whatever you need. We have that. And it's fast and easy to learn. In just a couple of weeks, I have managed to teach programmers from other languages how to put production quality code out in ColdFusion. So anyway, enough of that. What was added in ColdFusion? I'm going to go, this is going to be a fairly high level thing because there are a lot of pieces in here, and I'm happy to dig more into some of this at a later time. I actually have a bunch of videos that I can send links to for folks that are interested in learning more. We actually had some that were done during the beta process. If you were part of that, beta now is obviously over. CF25 has been launched. It's live. It's out there. But one of the big things was, if you remember the last year, there were kind of a lot of like security issues that had come up, and we were very, very focused on making sure that CF25 was the most secure product that it possibly could be. So there were a ton of new security updates. And also one big thing that has happened is we have been working much more closely with both PCERT and the central security group inside of Adobe. And if you've ever had a chance to kind of deal with them or see what they do, they are very, very good at their jobs. They're very serious. They have been much more involved in helping us make sure that CF is as secure a product as possible. We've done actually a lot of internal like red team testing, which has resulted in us finding like a fair number of things that no one else has found yet, security things, and getting those fixed ahead of time before anybody else could potentially use them to hack people with ColdFusion. So that's been a really big deal. We actually also joined, this is another big announcement, we've joined the main Adobe bug bounty program. So it's no longer just a ColdFusion thing. It's no longer internal, like you have to be invited to it. You can go out and you can actually join the bug bounty program. Shoot me an email, takata@adobe.com, if you're interested in joining that. And then we fixed a bunch of bugs. We also, if you remember, we've had a bunch of Java switches. The scoping issue that had come up, that was a security item. We had previously said that we were going to remove the Java switch for allowing implicit scope searching inside of CF25. We, based on feedback from the community, we've left that switch in for now in CF25. I cannot speak loudly enough to say you really need to fix that. You guys need to fix, if you're still using implicit scoping, that's going to go away, right? It's just good code to explicitly scope your variables also, but that is a fairly large security concern. It's not public. It's not a 0-day. No one has figured out how to exploit it yet. Nevertheless, it is something that is a danger, and you should really take it seriously and work on refactoring your code. But for now, we've left it in CF25. We will let you know before we remove it, however. We've changed some encryption items. We've removed, there were a couple of encryption items that were no longer secure. We've removed those. We've done some stability improvements, made sure that, anything that could potentially cause like things like memory leaks, and that we've removed those. And so that's working better now. Okay. VS Code Builder plugin. As many of you might know, VS Code Builder plugin, when it first came out, maybe wasn't super great. We totally acknowledge that the thing that launched at first blush was not maybe a great product. We have absolutely turned that around. If you have not used the VS Code plugin since maybe like September or October of last year at the latest, go and download the latest version. It is a completely different product from the way that it functions. Everything works now. All of the debugging works. It's still a little bit hard to set up. We're working on that next. We want the developer experience to be better, but functionally it is worlds above what it was before. So definitely give it another chance if you would. I've gone back to it. I actually had stopped using it for a while because it was driving me a little bit mad. But I've gone back to it and it works a treat now. So definitely go back. Basically, everything that was added to it was all bug fixes. It was all things that were breaking before. We fixed those. And then also we added language feature updates for CF25, obviously, as well. Those are in there now. This is a big one. Language additions in ColdFusion 25. I've heard people say that CF25 was not a big release. I don't know what they're talking about. Like this list right here, I could do probably an entire talk or more just on this stuff, like WebP image support, destructuring enhancement, bitwise operator enhancements, mod and Q of Q. So you could do mod operators inside of query of queries. Some updates to CF Grid, updates to Exchange, including some stuff that will be in another slide about MS Graph, some deserialization stuff, hash functions, struct value array, list get duplicates. That's actually a new built-in function, which is really cool. I'm sure you, just like me, have had to go through lists to make sure there's no there's no whatchamacallits in there. Dupes. This is built in now, which is really cool. Compound assignment operators. I don't know how much you guys use JavaCast, but you can do 2D arrays in JavaCast now. Array insert at, which is cool. Tons and tons of stuff for CF spreadsheet. There's a whole matrix of new things that went into CF spreadsheet over and above what I'm going to show you today, which is comma separated value list additions that we added also. But like in addition to those, and in addition to streaming spreadsheets, there were other spreadsheet additions that were also put in. Graphic environment, most people don't really use, but we did add that. Script protect JEE. Where's the big one? It's not even in this list. Oh, the big one here is we added a safe navigation operator. I think is what we added. Either it was something related, like, you know, because Elvis is done in a weird way compared to other languages. And so we added something that functions more close to what the Elvis operator functions like in other languages. That's in there now. Final static methods, that was a big change. That was a big addition. Some CF, so tons and tons and tons and tons of language updates. If any of you are going to ColdFusion Summit East, hopefully you are. I will actually be, my talk there is new additions to ColdFusion language since 2021. So I actually will be hitting on some of these and doing some demos, some code samples. Those code samples will end up on the web as well in the public repo for GitHub on Adobe ColdFusion. So you'll be able to check those out as well. And I'll also show you some code samples in a bit with the charting and the spreadsheets. Performance enhancements and updates. So this was something, if you guys remember CF23, we didn't really talk about. Oh, it's, you know, we usually say, oh yeah, it's X% faster, it's this percent faster. We didn't really say that in 23, and there's a reason, because we didn't really do a lot of performance enhancements at that point. For so many years, we'd had been, you know, making ColdFusion faster. But because of a series of unfortunate events, most of which occurred in 2020 and then kept going, you know what I'm talking about here, we had to give something up, and performance was something in 23 that we really didn't do. Obviously, we heard from all of you, you want ColdFusion to be as fast as possible. So in 2025, we have made some drastic improvements in performance across a number of different places. In the spreadsheet library, we not only made it faster to run all the time, but we added things to allow, for example, streaming a spreadsheet in. That was a big issue. Normally, when you have spreadsheets coming in and they're very large, and you try to put them in memory, that can be a problem. We actually had customers that were saying they had to build their own chunking mechanisms, which is not ideal. So we've solved that. We've actually allowed you to stream things in, and it's very efficient, very effective. Things that before would break or take hours at best take minutes now to run. So that was a big deal. Compile times also we've significantly improved. There's a white paper that's coming out that will have actual numbers for this stuff. I don't have confirmation on stuff, so I'm not saying the numbers here yet. Those will be published here soon. So you'll see that. So Q of Q, that's been a thing. I know a lot of folks in the community, you know, Brad Wood specifically has been harping on how the Q of Q in ACF has been fairly slow for a while, and we've gone in and made some pretty drastic changes and improvements there. Q of Q is much faster now. In charting also, we've improved rendering speed, that sort of stuff. Containers, specifically startup times in containers, that's been a big deal. If you're out there using Docker, especially if you're spinning Docker up, like if you're doing swarms or things like that, where you're actually having to do creating like disposable containers, bring them up and down. Startup times are pretty important, right? Like you don't want them to take 10 minutes because, you know, that's 10 minutes of not having the container. So we've vastly improved that. Some of the improvements are so big that we actually had to go back and double check. Like I think we had 1,000% increase in one of the speed things. And I want to say that might have been part, like something in Q of Q was such a big thing. Our developers didn't believe their own tests. They actually went back and they were like testing their tests. But it turned out it was that much faster. So anyway, if you love speed, and I know I do. 2025 brings it. CF Chart. So CF Chart has been in there for a while, as you all may or may not know. Obviously, visualization is an important thing that people do with ColdFusion, but for a while it's been maybe not the prettiest and not the most flexible. The library was just old, so we've gone in and we're still using the same library, but we have gone and brought the latest version of that library, as well as adding like marker enhancements, new charting types, and something called templates, basically. So if you, for example, and your company have a particular style that you want your charts to have, fonts, colors, that sort of thing, you can actually create your own templates and apply them to charts. Now, instead of having to do that all at once, it's like it's just a line item that you can drop into it. And I'm going to show you what a big difference these templates can make. I have a few set up in a sandbox environment, and it's really a big deal. It's still not as easy to do as I would like, so that's probably my next thing is just the developer experience for that, getting a little bit better. But it definitely works and definitely looks great. We added things like clustering and stacking, SVG support, which is a big deal. And then something called chart groups. If you have dashboards that are like grouped sets of charts and you want to reuse them in different places, we've now added the ability to sort of lock them into these groupings, which can dynamically resize themselves and look really good no matter what the screen size is. So another really, really nice addition there. Spreadsheets and CSV, I already mentioned some spreadsheet updates, but we also added comma-separated value list support. I don't know about you. I've done more CSV imports in my life than I probably ever wanted to, and every single time it sucks. I mean, you know, obviously we build our own libraries, we build our own regexes to import them, but they can be just a bear and a pain to do. It's all built in now, and it's beautiful. It works really, really easily. It's flexible. There's one item which didn't make it into release. I had really hoped that we could have made it into release. Unfortunately, it's still being worked on. I'm hoping that an update coming up soon will actually release it, and that's the CSV transform. I'm actually going to show you all of these in code, so I'm not going to talk too much about them and what they do quite yet. But okay, MS Graph. Hopefully, a lot of you are probably doing Office 365 integrations or other things with Microsoft products. As you may or may not know, Microsoft has slowly been moving away from what I would consider like traditional authentication methods into their systems. A few years ago, they removed basic auth, and now they really have just, you know, OAuth stuff and Microsoft Graph. To be clear, Microsoft Graph is not the same as GraphQL. I get that a lot. Those are two completely separate things. Microsoft Graph is essentially an API that you can use to do authentication. You can do user management, control. You can do data access with it. And we've added some of those features directly kind of baseline into Adobe ColdFusion. So now you can have better control over that. Microsoft has said, I don't know if they'll actually go through with it because it seems a little bit like insane to do, but they said they're actually only going to use MS Graph access for their stuff in the future. They're actually going to end even like OAuth access. So it's an important thing to work on. I know a few people built their own libraries already. This hopefully can replace those libraries, and it's just built in. Docker and Kubernetes updates. So hopefully you're using containers because containers are rad. And one of the things that we didn't have in there was things like secrets and some like setup support that really just, you know, could make your lives easier. We've added those things. We've added Docker configs and secrets to both Docker and Kubernetes. This is a good one. This is a good one for if you're interested in this, please email me. I can send you a link to the video that our internal team did on the new stuff that's available and what you can do with it and all that. At some point, I need to like link it out back onto LinkedIn. If you check my LinkedIn, that video exists somewhere. It was Suchika Singh talking about Docker stuff in beta. All that same stuff from beta is the same. It's just buried in like thousands of LinkedIn links right now. So, but I can get that for you again. And really, we should. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I actually think. One second. I actually think maybe that might be on our YouTube. One second. Hold on. This would be amazing if it's actually what I think it is. PMT. No. All right. I was so excited, but it's not there yet. We have to add it to the YouTube. I'm going to have it added to the YouTube. That makes it much easier. So all of you are familiar, hopefully, YouTube/Adobe ColdFusion. We have all of our videos on there. Very, very useful place to go. I'm going to have them put all of these videos on there so that you can check them out as well. All right. Code samples. Let's drop into some code stuff. And all righty. I am going to start with chart. That's a rhyme. I'm a poet. All right. So I've built this out as a sort of a playground to preview a few of the items that are available in the new charting. This code, by the way, is available at GitHub/Adobe ColdFusion charting. So all this code is available here if you want to grab that and play with it. It's all in there. And I'm just going to kind of like show you a little bit of like what it's doing, and then I'm going to show you the code. Oh gosh, I hate my laptop. I'm sorry. One second. The drop down's showing in a different. Okay, my bad. You guys ever have that where like you move a browser to one window, a different window, and the drop down still shows up in your previous window? It's so annoying. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so this is a donut chart, which is a new thing that we've added. You can do something like this where you can change the reference angle, and that rotates that. And then you can also change the aperture angle. Just going to add a little bite out of it. So this is a new feature. This is a new thing that you can do with charts. We also have, let's see, what's another fun one? We have the stepped bar chart. Not sure if this was working or not. There you go. Yeah. So you can change the color and things like that. More interesting though is the actual code there. Let me kind of go through which thing was this pulling in. Chart playground.cfm. By the way, I'm using HTMX here in case you're you like that. Okay, so. And something I'm doing here, by the way, which is kind of fun that you'll notice is I'm actually pulling in this data live from CSVs, which is fun. So and I'll show you a little bit more when I go into the actual CSVs. But you can see I've got different generate chart files, and you can kind of get into a lot of like the depth of what these things can do now. Like there's new plot things that you can add in here. There's new things you can add to the labels. obviously you could still change fonts around and all that. So this is fun to play with. I highly recommend you just download it and play with it. We've got pretty good documentation on it. If there's something missing from the docs, please let me know, and we can kind of add that in and add rules. Let me jump over to the more exciting part of this, which is the theme demo. Okay, so this is this is a set of charts, and they're live, like they're pulling data, they're pulling stuff out, and I'm going to go ahead and apply. So what's happening behind the scenes here is basically all I'm doing, I'm pulling the same data, I'm using the same exact chart, everything is the same. I'm just applying one of the new built-in themes to that same data. So all these themes that you're seeing here, these all ship with Adobe ColdFusion 2025. So just out of the box, you could go ahead and have some really nice looking charts for your dashboards or whatever visualizations you want to be doing on your websites. It comes with them. And then, as I said, if you want to, you can then create your own themes and then be able to apply your own themes to them. The themes are just JSON. At some point, I've been considering doing a theme builder if I ever get any time to actually do anything other than my job, but and maybe get an hour or two of sleep at night. But yeah, once I get a little bit more time, I'd love to build out a little builder for these and put that out so that you could export your own stuff, and just I'll put that on GitHub if I can ever get over to it.
So, quick question about the charts. Are those semantic components in the web space? Or are they depending on some sort of framework, or how is that under the hood?
Okay, so this is still using the same charting that we did before, which I want to say is Zing charts, except they're being rendered server side. Yeah, I mean, you're basically getting, yeah. So are you asking if they're like accessible, or what?
More
what
like
exactly
how it integrates with an existing project that you might have or something like that. If you have to worry about like collisions of CSS or whatever, like was a problem in the past.
Yeah, that should no longer be an issue. Everything should be scoped to the charts, unless one thing. Just make sure you're not using Zing charts elsewhere, because there is namespace stuff that will collide if you're using Zing charts on your own and dropping that in. It should not otherwise be an issue, though. And if it is, let me know, because that was an issue before that was reported, and I think we fixed that. So, yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Cool. So, okay, I'm going to move to CSVs. This is a little bit longer of a demo, and I kind of want to go over exactly what I'm doing here. So this page, essentially, let me kind of restart it from scratch. So I'm going in. I'm using ColdFusion to go and grab the names of these CSVs from a folder, a data folder. Yep. Hold on. Let me not charting, spreadsheet, data. So these files here basically are CSVs, right? I'm grabbing their names and dropping them into this folder, or this space here. And then when I'm clicking on them, what's actually happening is I'm going and using the CSV read function to go and grab, hold on, to go and grab it. So let me kind of just go through how this actually works, because it's pretty nice, it's pretty clean, and it's very useful and usable. So essentially all you do is you go and you find the file. I'm just passing it into this function here, and I'm setting the format return to be query. Now there's a number of different format returns. You can return it, I think, as a struct, and you can return it as a CSV, some kind of like Java CSV object, I think. But for me, query is the easiest thing to deal with because right? Like it's a query object. You can do anything you want to it. You can even feed it back in or do some other fun stuff. However, this is currently an issue with CF25. This is one other thing I don't think made it, but it will be in the first update, or heads will roll. You can quote me on that. When you first hit a CSV, what's the first line in a CSV? Essentially, always, right? It's the headers. That's just how CSVs look. I mean, sometimes you don't have that, but generally speaking, that's how they are. Unfortunately, what that meant was to actually have it put into a query in a way that makes sense. I have to go and I have to grab this twice. So, and this, by the way, this code is also available from the Adobe ColdFusion GitHub. So what I do is I go in and I grab the metadata for the query that I just read in. So I use CSV read to pull back the file and output it as a query, because that's the format, right? And then I create a metadata array with the metadata from that query, which gives me the number, gives me the columns and the number of columns and all that. And then I create myself a call count, and then I loop through. Basically, I go in and I do a for loop, but I only do a for loop on the very first one, and I break after that. But otherwise, I go in from that first group, I go and I grab the call name, and I add this all to an array, which then gets fed into something called read configuration, which allows me to set the query column names and ignore the first line of the CSV, and then again put it into a query. So now I've done that again, and I've thrown that in there, and you can see the configuration is set in. Now I have a query object, which is the CSV file, which then you can do whatever the heck you want. And just for funsies, I go and I query execute a query of queries against that query object, just to show you that it's real. You don't have to do that, obviously. And then I dynamically build a table, and that's the table. So now you can sit here and you can preview your, or you can ignore me. There we go. Oh, just took a second. You can go and preview your CSVs right in a web browser. Now, why might you want to do that? Lots of reasons. So for one, you may not have access to where the CSVs have been uploaded. Maybe, right? You may not be a programmer. You may just want to be able to read through the data as a business analyst, but not have to open it up. You may not have Excel. So this lets you just preview things on a remote server somewhere else. So that's the view CSVs thing. Sorry. Now, what about creating a new CSV? Right? Like you could create it in Excel, but what if you don't have it? So what I've done here, and I'm gonna just play a little fast and loose. I'm just gonna grab, oh gosh, I don't know, demo data. That looks fine. I'm gonna grab all of that, and I'm gonna name this, I don't know, Mitch CSV. And I'm going to go ahead and throw that in here. Okay. Now, let's make sure that this is valid, right? So let's go ahead and preview it. So I just set it up to preview, and there you go. So that's what this stuff up here is in table format. And now I can go ahead and save it as well. Okay. Now, part of that was a stupid pet trick. And you may have noticed before I had talked about that we're going to add this new feature called CSV transform. What does CSV transform do? Okay, so currently a CSV is a file. It's not a structured object. So if you have a CSV in memory, none of these things work with CSVs in memories. They literally need a file to read in and then a file to read back to. CSV transform will take a valid CSV object structure and transform it from in-memory to another in-memory object, which is what I would have needed here. So the way that I did this was by actually writing a oh gosh, let me find my spreadsheet. I actually write, edit, create. Where's my preview? Oh yeah. Okay. So I go and I write to a directory called temp data, and that's what I preview from. And then when I save it, I go and I delete that file from that. So again, it's a stupid pet trick. You shouldn't have to do that. This new feature will get rid of the need to do all that. So that one hopefully will also land with the new update, and it'll give you a little bit more capability as well, which is fun. Edit. So again, why might you do this? Right? Like, why might you want to edit a CSV this way if you have Excel? Well, that Excel, again, the CSV might be on a server somewhere where you don't have direct physical contact or physical access to it, right? You may not want someone who's not a developer. I mean, heck, if it's production, you don't want anyone to have physical access to the drive, right? And that would be bad. So, but let's say this first line here, sample status 110, that's supposed to be 1101. Oh no, right? To do that, I would have had to like download it, put it into something else. But here, I'm changing it, and sample status is now. So that is the opposite of CSV read. It takes a structure, and that structure then gets fed and saved into a .csv file in the correct format. But again, it can only be written to an actual file. It can't be written back into memory in a different structure. That's what CSV transform will do. And finally, this one is fun. Let's see if I can find. I need. Hold on one second. Let me find something I can actually search for. So let's search for C90B. So how would you search a CSV normally? I guess you could open it again in Excel, but again, what if you don't have access to that, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm actually going through and I'm destructuring. So I'm taking a CSV, I'm putting it into memory, and then I'm taking each portion of it and disassembling it and doing a substring search inside of it, and then returning back that particular row number, and then returning it back in my search. So you can kind of see here C901. This is the thing that got returned. So there's no other line with that particular set of things in it. Again, all this code is available for download. It all works. If it doesn't tell me, but it should all be totally fine. The only thing that you'll have to do, and I'll show you my last thing here before I, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late. Here we go. Application.cfc. In the application.cfc, this is for both charting and for the spreadsheet stuff. The root disk path, you have to set this to match what your local disk path looks like, right? So you're going to copy everything in. And then once you put that root disk path in that way, it should just work. You should be just fine, and you'll be good to go. So there we go. That's the demo. Oopsie. There we go. So there you go. Hopefully, does anyone have any questions that I can answer on any of this stuff? I may have to have you email me if it's a longer question. But was there anything else I could talk about? I spoke a little bit about this being a subscription product now. I could talk a little bit about that, but if like getting into like deep details like EULA and things like that, that's not something I can do in the here and now. But anyone?
I guess the biggest question I have, and you said that you'll give us a link to a video, but like deployment on Docker or Kubernetes or any of those types of environments, because I know that's still, at least in the prior versions, was always really clunky, and how you did it, because they still wanted you to like log into the administrator to set certain things like the license and all that, which unless you had the central configuration server, which wasn't always appropriate in all environments and all that. So
you can I mean, you can set some of that. Yeah. So I get what you're asking, because like you wouldn't want to have the license be clear text, right? So
right, like so if I'm
right.
for example, if I'm deploying in, let's say, Amazon's cloud or something like that, or let's say in particularly like in Lightsail or something like that, where you have some a cluster out there, it's kludgy, and still like to figure out how you actually do it best, because I've kind of pieced some things together, but I've not actually done it successfully myself. So
no, totally. One thing that might help. So a good friend of mine runs a site called Playful Programming, and I'm not sure if this can help, but let me. Where's the chat? There we go. Hello? Oh, there we go. My goodness. There we go. Okay. Blank screen came up. So this is a not super high end. You probably may or may not know most of. I think you probably might know most of this stuff. But this is a really good for people who may not know how to set up Docker in your environment. Like this is a really good overview of how to do it. But for doing things like secrets, 2025 definitely makes a lot of that way easier. The Docker config stuff that we added makes it way easier, and all that. And yeah, so
and this and I've seen this. I've actually seen this site before. It's great.
Yeah.
This tells you how to set it up almost like in a development environment. But when we start talking about how do you actually deploy it in production,
I got you.
Scalable and all that stuff. That's, I think, the piece that's really missing. And like, how do you actually push out like persistent variables and all the other stuff that just gets hard.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, let me see if I could get a video made on that, because that is we definitely want to support more and more people using this in Docker. It's so much easier, like generally speaking, to not have to sit there and install it into an EC2 or whatever.
No, totally, because that's
portable.
Yeah.
And making disposable composable Dockers is kind of the modern way of doing things anyway, and you can throw it into serverless environments. There's all kinds of ease of use things that are way better in that. So and we definitely are aiming to make that easier on you. So let me I'll send you the link to the actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to have them move that to YouTube so that you don't have to go and go into our weird Connect video area. We'll just have you watch it on YouTube, and as soon as it's up there, I'll let Rick and Randy know, and then they can send it out to the group, and you guys can take a look at it if that works.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
I'd say the other thing, kind of going to that same level as well, is for example, Lucy has been really good about pretty much every configuration option that exists in the administrator. You can now bootstrap in the application CFC and some of those things. And that's made a lot of improvement, particularly when you start deploying to containerized environments or things like that too.
I mean, you can do a lot of that also.
You can do about 80% of it in CF, but they've actually gone through in every single setting you've been able to do, which for the one-off type things start making a big difference.
I would say if you have particular ones that you'd like to see in there, please let me know or put in an ER for it, because I think some of them we've kept out just for secure. Like, we don't want people putting in like keys into their application.cfcs and then checking them into GitHub, right?
Well,
like
that's true, but a lot of people, they'll go and pass them in through environment variables.
That's true. That's true.
So that's how you bootstrap a lot of that stuff in containers.
Yeah. That's a good point. So
okay.
Like,
as simple as like setting up like a database, connections and things like that.
You can absolutely do that in application.cfc.
Yeah, that was just an example, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I'm like that, unless we remove something, and I'm gonna get mad at an engineer if they did. I'm like, I definitely was doing that. But okay. Yeah, like if you can, especially if you can send me ones that are not there that you need, let me know, because that would be, if we're only 20% off of having them all, I'd love to just give the engineers some things to knock out. For sure. Cool.
Anything else from the rest of the group here? I know you're at time.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm gonna be weaving in and out of traffic.
Nope, I don't have anything. Thanks for asking those questions, Nick.
Awesome. And I did want to, I wanted to add one quick thing before I go about the subscription stuff, because I'm just trying to like get people to really understand like some of the basis, like the improvements that it's going to give. You've heard me talk about adding things in updates, right? Like being on a subscription type of thing has opened up the capability for us to be able to add much more consistently features and like very useful updates inside of our updates that aren't just bug fixes and security, right? Like that's one of the things that I think people missed when we said we're moving to subscription, and that's why I'm like mentioning these new functionality pieces that are getting dropped in. For example, like CSV, something that's brand new that I discovered could be improved, and they're going to be able to get in maybe a couple months instead of waiting a year or two for the next version for that stuff to drop in. So I just want to kind of like throw that out as a good thing, because I get a lot of people like being subscriptions are bad and whatever. I've been a fan of subs for a long time, even before that, before like I got hired by Adobe. But yeah, so it's not all bad, guys. Anyway, cool. Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate you all getting me in here. And sorry I have to sort of run out the door. Apologies for that. But yeah, I'm gonna head out and get that thing rolling over there, and hopefully traffic is not going to be too bad. But if you have any other questions, if any other things come up, please feel free to email me at takata@adobe.com. My inbox is always open. I'm happy to either pass you on to an engineer or even like a customer success specialist if you have questions about like EULA and stuff, any differences between the previous one and the current one. If you have questions about deployments and things like that, I can definitely hook you up with the right people to talk to. So I'm a hub, and I am the touch point for the community for Adobe ColdFusion. So use me for that. So awesome.
All right. Well, thank you again.
All right. Thanks a lot, and good night, everyone.